Well, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Go the Distance podcast, where we come in to your lives and you into our lives, and we have real, raw conversation about real, raw life issues, and we choose to go the distance. We choose to finish our race and run it well. I am excited, as I told you last week, to have in the studio a man I call DC. It's not because you're from DC, but it's because his name is Derrick Campbell. And sometimes DC is just quicker and easier. It's good to have you in the studio, Derrick.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. You got your Rock Creek Men's shirt on, and I got
Absolutely.
my Rock Creek logo sweatshirt. And so we are repping Rock Creek today. And we want to take some time tonight to talk to you guys about specifically Derrick's ministry here at the church and what he does through the ministries of Rock Creek. Many of you know Derrick. You've seen him maybe as an usher. He's maybe greeted you as you walked in the auditorium, but what you might not know is Derrick and his wife, Chris, are very involved here and involved in many different ways. If you got a cup of coffee or you bought one of these, you probably saw Chris in the cafe, and she's the redhead in there. And Derrick, he is our director of outreach. And so what in the world is outreach?
So the way I would explain outreach is we are the church outside of the church. We're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We go into the community. We spend time with people, serving them. We try to make sure that people know that we love them. And occasionally we invite people to church. We try and make sure that we bring them to Rock Creek. First, we have to be the impression to show them who we are in Jesus, and then invite them to come see who we are and check us out.
So the mission here is obviously given to us by Jesus, but we created a vision statement around the mission of Jesus to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We created a vision out of that mission that says we help people meet and follow Jesus. And so the way that fleshes out is we gather as a community, we grow in community, and we go to the community. So when I hear go to the community, or when I read that, I think about not just the community inside the walls that we would call our church family, which we have to serve in there, that's going to that community, but we're actually called to go out into the community, to leave the four walls of the facility and go be Jesus, not just worship Jesus.
Right.
Actually live out what we're worshiping on Sundays. And so we do that through a variety of ways. And of recently, you and I have been having some conversations about redefining, that's not necessarily changing, but redefining some of our ways that we do outreach. And so you and I had a conversation at Fuzzy's Tacos. I took you to a great high-priced establishment for lunch, and we were talking about that. Kind of unpack that for me, what we were discussing.
So in the past, what we've done is we've done more events within community. So anyone that has not experienced outreach, it's more an events-based ministry. We're not a set group where, like children's, you serve every Sunday and meet with kids and help them. Our ministry is more events-based. So we go into the community based on events and go and serve. So in the past, we've gone more to communities on the 380 corridor, like Providence, Paloma Creek, Artesia, you name it. We've gone into those communities and kind of helped serve within their events. But now we're looking to do more serving where there's going to be a bigger impact to help those in need. So two organizations that we're going to spend more time focusing our projects on this year and going to do more events, Cornerstone in North Texas, which we've done a lot of great work with them in the past. We're going to focus on trying to be there more of a presence to help them with all their events. And then with Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors, which is a food pantry in Prosper, if you haven't heard of them, they definitely have a lot of needs, not just actual physical volunteers coming in to help collect the donations, being able to pass out donations to people in need, but also collecting donations to give out. So canned food items and several things. So had a chance to talk with both of those organizations, and of course things are a little different now because of COVID, but people still are in need. They still need help, and they still need us to come serve. So that's one of the things that they're excited to work with Rock Creek and have us committed to be there.
Yeah, so the conversation, that we had, I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know what you were thinking. You didn't know what I was thinking. This conversation we had back a couple of weeks ago, actually probably over 3 now. that we were talking about the fact that what I was burdened about was the fact that our outreach predominantly in the history of our church had always been about doing an event to get them to come in our door on Sunday. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we're going to continue to do those things. Probably one of the biggest disappointments for me in 2020 was that Trunk or Treat had to be paused. I'm not going to say canceled. It had to be paused because there's just no way that, number one, we could have pulled it off with the virus, with the coronavirus, and the fear of that, and the risk. I mean, just the risk alone. Because we've had just almost 5,000 people last time we had it there on the parking lot at Braswell High School. And so, unfortunately, Trunk or Treat didn't happen in 2020. And when we went into our budget process for 2021, the first question I got asked by the finance team here is, are we going to do Trunk or Treat? And I said, absolutely. Put that thing back in there. And so they put that line item back in the budget. And I want to be able to do that. And I really want to be able to do it on our property, here at our facility, not at Braswell. And so there's a lot of things that got to materialize for that. But anyway, that was our major big event. I mean, that was the event of the year for us outreach wise. But then you would partner with Savannah, Providence, Paloma Creek, Artesia, any of these at Windsong, we've been to Windsong, any of these other things where, like, let's say they do a July 4th event or they do a Christmas event where we would partner with them and we would help serve there. But again, that's all events driven. It's all about, again, inviting people to church. And again, that is necessary. It's one of the ways we've built our congregation through the years is being present and seen in those events. But God began to burden on my heart as the year began to expire last year that we have not, as a church, been actively involved in the community of being the hands and the feet of Jesus and serving whether people come to church or not, without the motive of saying, hey, come to our church because we did this event. And so that was where I went into that lunch with you. And lo and behold, you had already pinned that question. You had it on your heart and your mind, and this is God working in tandem, two brothers working in tandem together. You said, what is your greatest desire going forward? And I just looked at you and I said, if I had to pick, I would rather do the one big event a year and do what we can in these communities, but I would really like to see us get involved in the humanitarian side of things and helping people, especially through the midst of this virus and this season that we've been in. People are in need. Food lines, food pantries, and then Cornerstone of North Central Texas, their back-to-school drives, their Christmas at Cornerstone Christmas event. That's just an amazing event that even they had to adjust this past year. Right. So I told you I felt like we were poised as a church, which, by the way, as we heard last week, we have over 40 groups going right now in our church. Whether it's a co-ed group or whether it's a specialty group or a men's group or a women's group, we have over 40 groups. And that equates to, I don't know if you know this, you haven't heard this number yet, you're going to hear it, but we have over 600 adults currently in a group of some shape, form, or fashion.
That's excellent.
It's amazing. So if we've got 600 people growing in community, then the outward evidence of that would be that they're going to the community. And so I think we are poised and we are on the edge of being able to do some really cool things by helping these organizations. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with our church saying we're going to do a food drive and you can drive in our parking lot and we're going to load you up with food. There's nothing wrong with that. And we did the food drive back at Easter. When we couldn't have Easter in the building, we did the whole come by, get a faith is greater than fear sign. The Easter Bunny will be here. Bring these canned goods. Yep. All of those things that we brought went to neighbors nursing neighbors, and we delivered that to them. What I'm seeing is in our community, it is so much harder for the local church to try to pull all that off together. Why not just partner with the organizations that are already here, that are doing it well and doing it at a high level? So absolutely, what we need to do is we need to say to those organizations, how can Rock Creek be the blessing to you? And how can we not only be a blessing to you, but how can we help you be a blessing to the community? And so that's where we really began to see God lead us in that conversation. So saying all of that, you have went then and had the contacts with these organizations, and what are you finding out from them?
So these organizations definitely have been hit hard because of COVID. It's had to change the way they do things, but they still have the same needs. In fact, the food pantry, their needs have increased. They need more donations in terms of being able to supply food and needed items to people in the community. And they also need volunteers to not only help them collect the donations, but to distribute them, organize them. So the good news is with Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors, we already have 2 events that have set up for February. So the first one is on February 12th, which that's a Friday. I know that's a little difficult for some people, but if we have people that have flexibility that could come in during the day and be able to serve, we've got 2 shifts working there. So definitely could use help there.
That's my birthday, by the way, if y'all want to mark that down.
He's fishing for a cake.
Yes, I am. By the way, this guy can bake like nobody's business. Yes, you're the one that causes me to gain 10 pounds every holiday season with your sugar iced cookies, baby.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And the good news is we have a follow-up event on that Saturday. So we have 2 events back to back. And the great news is publish those out to volunteers. And the one on Saturday is already half staffed. So I only need 5 more volunteers.
I signed up this morning, brother. Yeah.
See, that's good.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing that I've seen is that you put those things out there, people respond, and people are willing to serve and help. And I think that's one of the greatest things about our church.
I agree. And, one of the things that you said that it's going to take to really do this in a huge momentous way with a big wave of momentum and really inundate the community with us serving is that you're going to need team leads. You're going to need people that step up and say, hey, I'll own this. I'll own this. I'll own this community. I'll own this community. I'll oversee that for you as because you've been trying to do that all yourself, and you've done an amazing job. But as we grow, there's no reason why there's enough people here. There's no reason why we couldn't get enough people to say, hey, let's build a team of outreach. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in the studio is because we talked about that at that lunch, is that we need to develop a outreach team of people that say, hey, I live in Artesia. I will own my community, and I will meet with you, and I will communicate with you, Derrick, as the director of outreach, and I will be the liaison between you and my community and set these things up, and then I'll manage the actual event for Rock Creek. So if you're watching tonight and this sparks your interest, if you're like, man, I want to be a part of that, because I know you're all over the whole Cornerstone and Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors. But as far as the community things, how could I let you know that I want to do something like that? What would be your thought there?
So the first I would say, if you live in a community on the 380 corridor and you want to be a part of the team, would love to have you. I think it'd be better for us to have someone that's in the neighborhood, that's able to talk with the HOA, be able to find out what events are going on, be able to make sure that they can think of what are all the things that are needed for that event, and then be able to help work on getting volunteers organized to pull the event off. So I think if we have someone that is willing to do that in each one of these neighborhoods, there's no reason we couldn't still do what we've done in the past, but then do more things like working with Cornerstone, Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors, Trunk or Treat, and then possibly other events that we want to sponsor at the church throughout the year.
Yeah.
If someone's interested in doing that, you can reach out to me. My email is derrick@rockcreektx.church, or I'll even be dangerous and put my phone number out there, 214-552-7080. So you can call me directly if you want to talk about that.
Call him about 3 a.m. Tell him you want to talk to him about outreach. How do you spell Derrick? Because it's many different ways.
Gotcha.
So let's put that in there.
Good call. It's DERRICK.
DERRICK at rockcreektx.church. Just shoot him an email and say, hey, I live in the Parks of Legacy, which would be right across the street from the church, and I want to be your point lead here to work with the HOA and to be the management of the event for that community. And then what we'll do is we'll find people that live in those communities that go to the church, to help you facilitate those events. Or they don't have to go to Rock Creek. If you have neighbors that want to help you with that event, that's fine. So that's really what we've got to do going forward, because there's just absolutely no way until we actually get to the size of a church where we say, hey, we've got a full-time staff that's outreach. We have to lead it through laity, and it's going to have to be a team of leaders who then build teams under them, who all flow from the 30,000 foot of Derrick Campbell. And so that's just the way ministry has always worked, and that's the best way. By the way, the Bible tells us that the job of a minister is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. It's kind of like this idea that the paid preachers do all the work, and that's part of it. But as a preacher, as a minister, our job is to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. We are all called to be ministers. We may not get a paycheck from a church, but we're called to minister for the kingdom of God. And that's what we're doing. When we're serving in the communities, or if we're serving at one of these organizations, that's all we're doing. We're representing our Savior, we're representing our church, and we're just doing what God has called us to do. Now, beyond that, I think probably what you're probably going to see in the next few weeks is maybe an informational type meeting on a Sunday right after church, after the third service. Hey, if you're interested in being an outreach, if you're interested in doing some of these things, would you stay after the third service? Or maybe we do it in between the services and you just have multiple meetings in the multi-purpose room. We'll figure that out. But
Sure.
So be looking for that coming up. But right now, we've got a couple of events coming on February 12th and 13th with Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors. And so if you'd like to serve in those, and you're not on a distribution list that gets this sign-up email, just email Derrick, as he said, Derrick at rockcreektx.church, and he'll get you the registration link so that you can sign up and serve. I can tell you on February 13th, I will be there. I will be serving at Neighbors Nourishing Neighbors, and I did see there's 5 and you need 10. And so we still need 5 more. You know, outreach is so important because even in good times, it's important. But even more, as I've seen in this season that we're in, that the world needs to know that the church is not just about what we want from people.
Right.
That's a persona that's out there. That is an idea in the unchurched world or de-churched world that all the church wants is something from us. This church wants something for you, and we want to not only minister to people in need, but I'm going to tell you what I want for you. When you serve, when you go outside of yourself, when you don't want to go, when you're tired, when you'd rather hang out at the house on a Saturday and watch sports or whatever you watch, when you get outside of yourself, the person that you're serving gets the blessing, but the blessing comes back, boomerangs around. And when you leave there, you go, that's what life is really all about.
Absolutely.
It's serving other people. And so we're never more like Jesus than when we give and when we serve. And then I'll throw one more little fun phrase I use is, if you're not serving, you're swerving. Yeah, so serve inside the church and outside the church, because you're not earning anything with God by doing it.
Right.
But it helps your walk with God. Go ahead.
And the one thing I'd say about outreach, the part about this is also different, is because it's event based, there's not a set time that you have to be there for every event. Like, we've got an event coming up on Friday that's going to be during the day. We have an event coming up on Saturday morning. Sometimes we'll have events coming up on Saturday afternoon. So just because you're already serving in the church in other areas doesn't mean I couldn't use you on outreach. And just because you might have a set commitment on Saturday at a certain time doesn't mean we won't have events coming up that will be at a different time where you could still serve and come out and help.
Yeah. So it's like a plethora of things in different times. So sometime it may work for you, and there's other times you may not be able to do it on that day or time.
Right.
But when you are able to serve, step up, serve, and be involved in something. And so I think I know, because we have great needs for people to serve on Sundays and throughout the week in the ministries of our church. We do a great job of pushing people towards that, especially through the volunteer. And Danny Taylor does a great job with facilitating that and getting people plugged in. And we need that. But we've got to go beyond that. And I told you at that lunch, it burdens me that for the first year of getting in our building, we were so focused on just figuring out church in a facility after 12 years of portability that we kind of missed the mark of the hands and feet side of serving outside the walls of the church last year. And I told you at lunch, the last thing I want said about our church in this community is, oh, it's a great church, but they're all about themselves. Or, oh, it's a great church, but they never get outside their facility and do anything in the community. And if we don't get involved, it won't take long for that to be the stereotypical thought of our church. They're a great church. They got great worship. They got great preaching. They got great kids ministry, great student ministry. But that's all they do is they minister to each other. And so I said, we've got to change that direction. We got to change that thought. And if nowhere else in my heart and mind, that we are beyond just events. We are about really helping people in their needs of the moment. Now, the event is still going to happen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because those are fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you remember? I'll just kind of pull back the curtain for a little bit and let people peek in, because we got so many new people at Rock Creek that I don't think they may know what we've done with Trunk or Treat. But man, how many years ago did we go to Arizona?
Wow. I think that had been close to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because this would have been our 4th Trunk or Treat.
Yeah.
Coming up this year. Well, this past year in October. It would have been our 4th Trunk or Treat. So it would have been 5 years ago.
On Halloween.
We actually flew out, and this part might make you feel a little bit bad. We actually flew out on my son's birthday, the 30th. We got there before the event was going, so we could see how they were setting everything up, and then we saw it on the Halloween, and it was just incredible. One of the most incredible things I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And when you said to me, hey, I want you to come back and put this event on for us, I was like, wow, no pressure. This is just the most incredible thing I've seen. And now you want me to do this here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just for the knowledge of those of you watching, we went to Maricopa, Arizona, flew into Phoenix, went down to Maricopa to our sister church, Church of Celebration down there, Pastor Josh Barrett and Ginger and their crew. And they had been doing Trunk or Treat, man, for many years. And I think that year was one of their most successful years. I think they had like around 10 grand. Or 10 or 11,000 people that came. I know the line to get in the trunks was wrapped around the facility, much like ours ended up being at Braswell.
Yeah, we had to learn a few things the first couple of years. The lines were long, but this past year, Jenny took over the whole guest experience, and Jenny Jager, that is. She took over that piece and had one line so everyone could see every single trunk. We had more than 45 trunks. And people got through the line in less than about 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. So it was incredible.
Yeah. So we go out there and we see this massive event. And I looked at you and I said, all right, the reason I brought you here is because I want you to bring this back to Rock Creek, back when we were Church of Celebration Metro. And so we set the wheels in motion to do it the following year.
Yeah.
And like you said, this past year would have been our 4th year. And for those of you that have never experienced it, we've had just under 5,000 is the largest attended trunk or treat we've had. Amazing event. Like you said, 45 trunks. The trunks are decorated. The people do an amazing job decorating their trunks. We've had food with bouncy houses, everything under the sun that we can provide for the community, and it's all free of charge. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you, it's a $10,000 ticket item for the church. And at the very end or at the very beginning, whichever one they put me at, I'm handing an invite card, because we do a trunk, Sarah and I, and I'm handing an invite card to everybody that goes to that line, inviting them to church, to our next sermon series. And we always try to do something that's kind of eye-catching, kind of a come and see type series after Trunk or Treat. And so anyway, that's what we've done in the past, and we really were disappointed not to be able to do it this past year, but we want to do it again this year.
Yeah, and I think the history of our church going back years back, we always tried to do a spring event close to Easter, and it always seemed like the weather was never cooperating in North Texas for that.
Easter extravaganza.
So then we decided to move it to fall and do it around Halloween, because that seemed like weather was better. There's a good chance to get people out for the community, and it seemed like it was just a great event overall, just timing-wise, to get people to come around. And I think the great thing is that we got to meet a lot of people from many different neighborhoods around 380, tell them who we are, show them we love them, and invite them to come visit us. And a lot of them did. So I think that was the great thing about the event, getting to meet people and get a chance to show them that we love them before they even really know who we are.
Yeah, that's right. And we've done the whole egg drop from helicopters and everything back at Naval Middle School days. But seriously, the spring weather I remember one Easter extravaganza. We woke up on that morning that we were going to do it, and a cold front had blown through, and it was like 20 degrees, 25 degrees with the wind chill was like 7, and we were like, this is nuts, and we had to move it indoors, and it was hard. And so we just, weather's so unpredictable that time of the year. We just decided, let's do something in the fall, and let's just capitalize on that fall festival type mentality idea. And so that's why we switched to Trunk or Treat. But anyway, outreach is something we do here. It's something that we've done at a high level. And this past year has caused us to have to, pause. But I really believe that we're getting into a year with the vaccine and everything else that's going to be transpiring over the next 6 months. I truly believe that potentially this fall we can get back to something Trunk or Treat wise. And so we're hoping and we're planning for that. Beyond that, we do stuff in the summer with Vacation Bible School. We'll need volunteers for that. I know Brian Holt will need that. We weren't able to do that last summer, but we're planning on doing that summer of 2021. So there's going to be there's going to be a lot of opportunities to serve. So if you're ready to get plugged in, if you say, hey, I want to do something, Derrick, Derrick, at rockcreektx.church.
Oh, the other thing is, if you know about events or great opportunities for the church to get plugged in, also tell me about those as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid to having someone tell me about great opportunities to go into a neighborhood or go into a different place to serve. Anywhere that we have a chance to serve and be able to be the hands and feet of Jesus, we need to take advantage.
That's good. It's real good. Hey, don't forget anything. Like maybe you've worked with Habitat for Humanity or something like that. Let Derrick know by shooting him an email. That would be such a great idea. Well, Derrick, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do. It's a joy to serve alongside you and Chris and your family. And you guys have been with us a long time. And you found your niche when we found outreach for you. And you found it. And you're like, that's what I want to do. And so
absolutely,
you do a great job with it.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for joining us this week for this podcast episode. And don't forget, get involved, because if you're not serving, you're swerving. God bless. Have a great week.
Thank you.